And welcome everyone to a Southwest Airlines Maui Invitational chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by Sean Miller, head coach of Texas. And Sean, the Maui Invitational historically has always been one of the best non-conference tournaments. That whole Thanksgiving week, again this year. When we saw the first field, we weren't sure, but as things have developed, new coaches, I'm feeling pretty good that there's going to be some NCAA tournament teams that come out of this field. How are you feeling in terms of the way the field is heading into November?
I've been in this tournament. Believe it or not, this is my fourth trip, Andy. There's probably not a lot of coaches that can say they've coached in the Maui, Invitational more than three times. So this is trip number four. Three other times with Arizona, and then now this is year one here at Texas. But no matter what trip that I've made to the tournament, I think there's a couple things that always seem to be in play. One, it's early in the year, right? So none of us are finished products, and it's an amazing test. And the reality of college basketball, you get into March, and when they put your resume up on the screen, it always comes down to who did you play, who did you beat, and when you go to the Maui Invitational, you're covered. Because the competition is elite. You play three games in 3 days. A lot of tournaments now have moved to two. And it's a great challenge. Early in the year, three games in 3 days and great competition. And for us, it starts with Arizona State, who, I know well just because of my days playing against ASU in the Pac-12.
One thing that I think is pretty unique is because it's so small at the Lahaina Civic Center, every game is packed because each fan base has to come in and come out. And obviously Arizona had a tremendous fan base that traveled with you guys. What are those games like when it's this intense, small, loud atmosphere?
Well, that's the one of the big reasons why I think it's the best tournament in college basketball of its kind because, pageantry is probably not the right word, Andy, but you have that NCAA tournament feel when, the early rounds of the tournament, there's always a game before you or a game after you, and no different than you just mentioned, your fan base is coming in or leaving versus the others, and there's a buzz in the building. The size of it, the weather. And really the history. There's not a player that's in that tournament that doesn't recognize and realize all of those who've been in it prior to them. Watching that tournament for decades, now to have the opportunity to compete in it's quite an honor. And I also, like we've talked about it, it's also a great challenge. Again, when you think of the change in college basketball across the board, these early games, right? You don't have as much familiarity with your own team, with the other team, because there's so much change from one year to the next. So I think in some ways, it makes the tournament even more exciting.
The other thing is, I don't care what tournament you're in. I've always felt that the first game of a tournament, you can look back and say that might have been one of the most important non-conference games we played because if you win it, you're almost guaranteed, regardless of your tournament, of playing a tournament type team in game two and game three. If you lose, that you're kind of rolling the dice what happens in that consolation bracket. What do you think of that first game in these kinds of tournaments?
Well, for sure. And it's the same with your conference tournament and, March Madness. It's the second game, it's not going to come your way, or it's not going to go the way you want it to if you don't handle who's on the plate first. And that's why I mentioned, when you go into a tournament like that and you start to think about the bigger picture, three games in 3 days and all of the terrific teams that are there, you sometimes can lose track of you're there to win game one. And our opponent is ASU, and we know that's going to be a difficult game. How ready we are will determine a lot, taking it one day at a time.
The other thing too, Sean, is there are a few tournaments in the country where you really can bond as a team. You guys start now so early back in June. It's a grind. It's hot. You're in the gym. Then people may go their separate ways because they're on campus. You get into the throes of the season. You got classes and all that. But when you're in Hawaii, especially Maui, you kind of all have to stay together. What is it about that aspect of this trip that can matter throughout the course of the season?
You're right. And even the travel itself, regardless whether you're coming from the West Coast or we're coming from the state of Texas, that in and of itself is something you want to be ready for. And you spend a lot of time with each other because of what you said, the preparation for game one. You're a long way from home. You're in a beautiful island where there's more to do than just the game itself. You can't get distracted, but I also think you have to be able to enjoy the experience as well. And I think it's that balance that we're after, where we want to be ready and we know why we're there. It's something that has an accomplishment next to it if you play well in that tournament, but being able to enjoy it and then come out of that tournament better because you went. And there's a lot to that. It's not just your record or the three games. It's what you said. It's the experience of getting to know each other better. And in my best attempt, Andy, of trying to allow everybody to get to know each other the best we can, you can't do it just in the summer and in a couple months. It's trips like that, it's experiences like that, especially early in the season, that I do think help your team grow. And we're going to be better and we're going to grow from the experience. We also have to be ready and play our best.
And what's your favorite memory of those first three trips?
It's easy. We won the Maui Invitational in one of the three that I went over there, and there's a difference between, going to the tournament and participating and leaving as the champion. When you're in the champion circle there, you look and start to reflect back of all the great teams and what they went on to do, the coaches that have won it, and to be in that circle, I think is to some degree rare air in college basketball. So that's my memory.
Hey, for the record, the last two champs played in the Final Four, Purdue a couple years ago and Auburn last season. So we shall
Yeah,
see.
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.